we're key pieces of the puzzle. We make decisions on God's behalf. So the consequences of our decisions can be positive or negative. Either way, that fits into God's plan. In other words, God does have a plan. It's called teleology, but you can either be pro-teleological or you can be anti-teleological. That's up to us. He gave us free will, right? So the consequences of that are on us. Whether or not God's plan comes to fruition, we help determine that. There's something in the CTMU called distributed solipsism. We each create our own worlds. God is the one who knits all those worlds together, puts them all together, and causes them to intersect in common resources, which is the physical reality we see around us. All those little particles, all those objects, those are common objects in which our worlds intersect. Okay, that's what God has to do, and he intercedes all the time to that effect. Okay, he's knitting the world together for us. But then we determine certain details of how it gets knitted together. Behind whom are we gathering? Under whose program or under whose aegis are we knitting things together on the ground level? So we have to choose our leaders wisely. We have to choose the plans that we're presented wisely. All right? We don't always do that. And when we do it wrong, then the consequences are on us. They're not on God. Okay, God knows that we've reached a point in our history at which we face many unprecedented dangers. They're cropping up all around us, from nuclear Armageddon to COVID-19. God wants us to experience a millennial mass awakening in which we realize who he is and who we are and what reality is and how we relate to it. Okay, obviously, only with that kind of understanding can we learn how to live happily and sustainably in reality as it actually exists, dealing with all of these problems in concert, given the truth of our own nature, right? You've heard of human nature? Well, we're still learning about it, okay? And we need to learn more about it, and we need to do everything that we do in concert with it. That's the only way it can work. Okay, and this will amount to a mutual recognition and acceptance of God and man, and it's called the human singularity. Okay, I've actually written a paper about this. Now, instead of doing that, what we're doing is heading for something called technological singularity, which is the projected merger of man and machine. Now, according to some, the rise of conscious machines, which will have no need of man and eliminate us as threats, is a real possibility. Okay, that's something that could happen in this scenario. But in any case, the merger is poorly explained, and it's poorly understood, and its possibility has never really been established. Okay, when people talk about the tech singularity, they're really talking out of turn. They're talking without having thought it through, because they haven't thought it through. If you read the literature on it, none of them know what the tech singularity really is. There's a lot of speculation, but no real knowledge about it. Okay, and the worst part of it is, if it occurs, it will not be under our control, and it's very likely to destroy us. And that's a real big problem, and that's what makes our current situation differ from the similar situations that have arisen in the past. Okay, now, our choice between the human and tech singularities is associated with something called parasitic divergence. That's a point of divergence at which the overclass, class with the money to develop and control advanced technology, sometimes called the elite, the overclass, it separates itself from the underclass and enslaves or eradicates or turns its back on the vast majority of the human species. Now, it's a very unfortunate thing to happen because the overclass is neither good enough nor smart enough to get away with that. They give themselves all kinds of credit that they don't deserve. It's not a meritocracy out there. Most of these people are just privileged from birth and have no idea what it actually takes to live in the real world. They live in bubbles. They've lived in bubbles all their lives, and they're just not smart enough or good enough or empathic enough to really know what to do. So unless we stop them, it could very well mean the end of the human species. Okay, this is a real crisis that we're facing now, because these people are actually in a position to take permanent charge of everything, and they're just not worthwhile for that purpose. Now, parasitic divergences have occurred many times in history. Every time a society is taken over by warlords or kings or leaders or whatever, they forever modify it in certain respects. Sometimes they destroy its native adaptivity and fitness. That can happen to us too. It's been happening to us. We're getting dumbed down. We're being made lazy and dependent and entitled. None of these things actually work, okay? Those things are anti-survival. They're anti-fitness. The difference between past incidents and the one that's now in progress, past divergences, and the one that we're undergoing now, is that this one includes the very real possibility of permanent technological lockdown. And that's what the tech singularity represents. You know, the surveillance and control technology that these people are even now creating In theory, in principle, this could allow them to permanently enslave us or eradicate us. And we don't control that technology because we don't have the money. They have the money. They're the ones who are developing it, and they're the ones who control it. Okay? Coming back to the human singularity, our only hope is to have our millennial mass awakening after all, and achieve the human singularity and subject technology to responsible human oversight.